Today we are going to be showing you how to install an architectural window. Right now we are at a brand new building. They wanted everything tinted all around for some nice privacy, heat rejection, UV protection. So let's get started. New construction, very dusty from when they did the mudding and taping. So the first thing we got to do is clean it. Gonna get everything nice and ready, wet. I'm using what I call my dirty rag to wipe everything down. Basically the reasoning for that is to get any extra dust and dirt on the glass off before I scrape it that could possibly get trapped under my blade and then scratch the glass. If you get any like quartz or stuff from sand, it can definitely do that. So I got my initial wipe. You can get it wet again. I will use my 3-inch Triumph scraper. We're going to scrape the whole window. You can kind of listen to as it's hitting like debris and stuff. And if I notice an area that there's a lot of crap stuck to it, especially if there's like mud from when they just did the window on there, I'll go over that area a little bit harder. So. All right, the whole thing is scraped. I'm gonna throw a little bit more water on there just so it doesn't dry back on the glass. But now I'm gonna do my edges, especially new construction with this dust. I'm just gonna spray around all my edges. That's gonna help flush out any of the dust that's sitting on there, especially on the bottom. You can kind of see where all this white crap is. So I'll spray that, get it to pop out a little bit. There you go. Go around all the edges to get any of the extra stuff I might have missed. Go really hard on your bottom because that's where all the crap usually gets stuck. Lube here, and we'll squeegee it off. Almost. So that's the end of my initial clean. So basically the glass is prepped to start cutting our film on there. You gotta kind of use a film that's the right size. So we got about 38.5 by, about 50.5. I'm using a 60-inch roll, and then I'm just gonna kind of cut it down closer to that size so it's easier to work with. So I'll get my glass prepped so the film will stick to it. 38.5, I usually pull it out about an extra 2 inches, so I'll pull it out to 40. Needed 51.5, 60-inch roll. I'll cut off about an extra 7 inches just to make it a little bit easier to work with. You always have a factory straight edge on there, and depending on what angle I need to cut it at, so the length, I'll either put my factory straight edge on the top, which is this way, or if I was using like a 48-inch roll and I cut it more towards this side, then my factory straight edge would be on the left. So I put my factory straight edge on the top or the left. It's just personal preference. I like to do everything the exact same way every time, so you get some good muscle memory, and that way it makes it hard to actually forget steps. All right. So as you can see, the gaskets on this particular window are like way off. It's short here and bows down here, so we'll just give it a little bit extra. I have a tiny light gap there, but you'll never see it, so not that big of a deal. I get it wet so I can squeegee. Just tacking the film down right now. That way when I go to cut, it won't move on me. I'll put a little bit of water around all the edges, so as I slide my fingers across it while I cut, my fingers will slide nice and easy. The main way you typically want to do it is at like a 45, because if you see the film actually bows right here. So if I cut too far in like that, you're actually going to get a light gap. If I cut at like a 90, you actually get a little bit extra right in front of my blade to ensure that the film is nice and tight the whole time, because if it's not and it changes, it's actually going to change the angle of your cut. So there's a lot of times that's what people do, and then they end up with giant light gaps. They'll have like a light gap clump here and then too much here and a light gap here. Maintaining the exact same angle. And then where it starts to bow down here, I'll actually stop right before that, because if I cut through that bow, it's going to throw off the angle of my cut on the film, and that's how you get the light gaps. That side's done. I just got the bottom. And got my lead hand and then my one finger right in front of the blade. The film was facing the way that it was supposed to be going on. So right now I have my release liner facing me, so the sticky side would be facing me. When I cut, I'm cutting it the exact same way as the film goes on, so the sticky side has to face the glass. Technically it's backwards now, because that's how I have to peel the release liner right before I stick it on. So these corners, I'm just using my Conqueror squeegee to get as close to a perfect 90 as possible. Now I got to remember that technically my bottom side is up, so when I install it I have to flip it back around too. All right, got all my final cuts done. We had to flip the film back around, right? Now, I like to stick it to a wall. I've never had this damaged paint on a wall when I've been doing this. It's just water that we're working with like a tablespoon of soap, so it doesn't hurt nothing. My final clean, so I'll squeegee everything off again. It's already really wet from when you had the film on it. It's also a really good time to double check your cleaning. So there's a little bit of a smudge here. I'll take that off right here. And then I have my second rag, which is like my clean rag. So this one's nice and dry and doesn't have a whole bunch of dirt and crap on it. Get that off. Go around the edge with my clean rag one more time, in case there's any more dirt stuck under these gaskets. It's pretty clean. It's ready for our film, so I'll get it nice and lubed up. And grab my film. This is the clear release liner that I was talking about. That basically just protects the film from damage while you're working with it, shipping it, kind of that thing. So we'll take that all the way off. Get that a little wet so it's nice and lubed and we can move it around when we stick it on the glass. And that's where the adhesive is. The difference between architectural and automotive film is this is a pressure activated adhesive, so it's nowhere near as aggressive. Architectural film won't stick on cars if you try and use it with rolling the windows up and down. And then automotive film doesn't work really well for architectural because it sticks almost too much for such a giant sheet, and then it also picks up a lot of extra debris and stuff. So I gave myself a little bit extra just because this gasket's wonky. So I'm gonna kind of open up the gasket with my squeegee, shove it up a little bit, making sure that my light gaps are pretty even around everything. As you can see, like the gasket is like way back in here for whoever installed this window, and then it's almost too far out right here. So it's just not gonna be perfect. I leave a little bit left on the outside. I'll show you here in a second why. Because now I start at the top and I push it straight out with my squeegee. The reason being for that is there tends to be dust under the gaskets no matter how well you clean it. And if you pull it straight down like this, it actually pulls in a little bit of dirt and dust. If there is dust under that gasket, it'll pull it into your film instead of this just shoving it right out. And then I'll finally do my bottom. Start in the middle and I push out because with down, If there was any water under here, which there's usually some extra, now it's all kind of loaded up on this left side, but it's nowhere near as much as before. So I'll just kind of bring my squeegee down at a nice angle right along the edge to get that extra out. Final squeegee's done. Now there's pretty much just water around my edges. So I'll put my conqueror under the gasket and then I'll follow it with a rag, because this is going to be tucking my film under the gasket and pulling out any excess water from that edge. Then my rag will suck it up instead of it ending up back under the film later. That's basically it. Now, after I'm done with the house or whatever I'm doing, I'll finish every window and then I'll just go back around with a little bit of glass cleaner, wipe everything down, make sure no fingers got pulled up. You're good to go. Leave them in the comments. Otherwise, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Anything else you'd like to see, let them know in the comments and we'll try and do another video for that.